Hello and welcome to Legal Basics with Sarah Law Global, and my name is Sian. We are still on the election law series, and today we are going to look at presidential petitions, which have become very frequent in Kenya. And with us today to discuss that topic is a colleague of mine. I will let him introduce himself.
My name is Moses Owur. I'm a lawyer, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I work and practice as an advocate in the firm of MMA Advocates LLP.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Please explain to the viewer what is a presidential petition?
A presidential petition, in a simple form, can be said to be a complaint challenging the result or the validity of the results of an election of the president. Presidential petition is lodged after the declaration of a presidential election result in accordance with Article 140 of the Constitution and the Elections Act.
Is there a timeline within which a presidential petition must be brought?
You can compute it this way. We expect to have the elections on 9th of August. The Electoral Commission will have 7 days after that election within which they can declare the result of the presidential election. Mm-hmm. After the declaration of the presidential election, any person can lodge a petition challenging that result within 7 days of that declaration. If the commission publishes or declares the result within 2 days or 3 days of the presidential election, then you count 7 days from the declaration.
Who can bring a petition?
Any individual, any Kenyan. An organization can also bring a petition. We've had in Kenya the experience where petitions have been lodged in the past by individuals. The most conspicuous have been the people who have lost the elections. Mm-hmm. That's why we call the last two petitions Raila 1, the 2013 petition, and Raila 2, the 2017 petition. Mm-hmm. But you'll find that even in 2013 and 2017, there were other people, including NGOs, who had lodged petitions to challenge the result of the presidential elections in those in those two electoral cycles.
All right. And who is the petition against?
By law, the person who must be included as a respondent is the Independent and Boundaries and Electoral Commission. In the past, the petitioners have also included the people who have won the election because they have an interest in that election. And two, the decision, if any, of the court will affect them. Okay. So the last two petitions have been against Uhuru Kenyatta. Mm-hmm. It has been first, the IBC as the first respondent and Uhuru Kenyatta. Mm-hmm. Petitioners have also joined the chairperson of the IBC, who is considered sort of the returning officer for the presidential election.
Now, which court is the presidential petition filed at?
The Supreme Court has what you call original exclusive jurisdiction to determine a presidential election, which means a presidential election can only be lodged in the Supreme Court. Okay. You can't lodge a presidential petition in any court.
On what grounds can a petition against the election of the president be brought?
It doesn't specify for you the grounds, but grounds which have been set out in the last two petitions include breaches of the Constitution, allegations that the elections was not conducted in a manner that is consistent with the Constitution. Right. Number two, the result of the election does not reflect the will of the people, which means there were changes in the result, allegations of changes in the result, allegations of forms not supplied, the statutory declaration forms which are supposed to be support the results. Mm-hmm. There's also been challenges in respect to integration of technology. Mm-hmm. The IBC has what they call the result transmission system, yes, which was used in the 2013. Mm-hmm. And in 2017, we call it the KIMS, the Kenya Integrated Election Management System, which includes a result management system. And what the petitioners have alleged in the last two cycles of election is the failures of the technology employed by the commission to declare or to transmit election result. Mm-hmm. So there's also been a lot of allegations in terms of conduct of the elections generally, the electoral environment, bribery, use of public resources in the elections, conduct of public officers in the elections, and refusal by the IBC or IBC officials to admit sort of political party agents or other candidates' agents. So there was some of those allegations. Some have been proven, some have not been proven. But those are what you can summarize as the main grounds in the last 2 cycles.
Okay. So what are the likely outcomes of a presidential petition?
Current constitution, we've had 2. One has failed in 2013, one has passed. So the likelihood is 50-50. Previously, they all failed because of technicality.
Okay.
The Matiba petition of 1992, Kibaki petition of 1997. There was also an Orengo one. But the current Supreme Court has tended to take the election petition to substantive hearing.
All right.
So when it goes to substantive hearing, at least the 2 results you can refer to is the 2013 and 2017 and say it's 50-50.
Okay. So when a petition is successful, that means that the election of the president is nullified.
Yes.
And when it is not successful, then the election is upheld.
Yes.
All right. So the composition of the Supreme Court has changes from time to time. Sometimes we've had 6 justices, sometimes we've had 7. What is the threshold for determining a presidential petition?
All the decisions of the Supreme Court are decided in accordance with the Supreme Court Act, which says the decisions of the Supreme Court are by a majority of the justices. So if you are looking at decisions of the Supreme Court, you have to look at the operations of the Supreme Court Act.
Okay. In 2017, when we had 6 justices, and there's a possibility that we will get 3 against 3, 3 agree and 3 do not, how will that affect the petition? The
petition fails.
Okay.
Which means the prayers which have been advanced before the court have not succeeded, which means the person who has been elected president remains elected president.
Right.
The Supreme Court can only do 2 things. It can declare an election valid, or it can declare an election invalid, or make other orders. But what the other courts in other petitions do, they can also replace the person who has been elected with the person who is they consider who is duly elected. If there's a recount.
Yes.
You see, the Supreme Court cannot do a recount of the entire country.
Yes.
So they can only declare an election invalid.
Okay.
So if there's a complete equality of the justices, 3v3, the petition fails.
All right. So what happens when a petition fails?
The person who the IBC declared as duly elected is duly elected. So if it is successful, the commission must hold a fresh election within 60 days after the determination of the court.
All right.
If the petition fails, the commission, the president-elect is sworn in on the Tuesday after the 7th day following the determination of the court.
Okay. Well, just to maybe brainstorm, this has not happened. But is it possible for that subsequent election to be challenged by a petition and maybe another subsequent one? Is there a limit?
There's no limit. There's no limit.
So even the second one can be challenged, and we will be constantly in court waiting for another 60 days and then challenge again.
Yes.
Okay. So just to wrap it up, maybe a summary of the presidential petitions filed in 2013 and in 2017. One was not successful. The other one was. Maybe just a small recap of what happened.
They said 2 things. One, they say that they are not changing the decision or the reasoning of the 2013.
Yes.
They sort of, what you call in law, distinguished the decision of 2013. They also did another thing, which they allowed some level of scrutiny and in this 2017 election. And also how they interpreted Section 83 of the Elections Act. You can find the 2017 petition or the decision of the Supreme Court as more oriented to constitutional interpretation than the 2013 one.
Okay.
The 2013 one was a bit more, if you can call, restrictive in 2 senses. One, they refused or denied the petitioners an opportunity to advance additional evidence because of the timelines for admitting evidence in the court. And therefore, the level and the depth of scrutiny for the 2013 one was a bit restricted.
Okay.
They also made a bit more restrictive decisions in the interpretation of certain sections of the articles of the Constitution. For instance, Article 83 on registration of voters, and also the determination of whether Section 83 of the Elections Act is supposed to be interpreted what they call conjunctively or disjunctively. So basically you find many, especially liberal scholars and people who analyze these decisions have said the Supreme Court was a bit more permissive in terms of, they were more robust in terms of constitutional interpretation, and they looked more into the process of the elections other than the outcome of the elections.
Okay.
Compared to the 2013, where they were considered to be more restrictive in terms of
the outcome.
In terms of and based more on, basically they use the test which you call materiality test.
Okay.
Materiality test even says that even if the process is not in conformity with the Constitution, it must have material relevance
On the
to the outcome.
Okay.
So they interpreted Section 83 to almost impose an outcome-based interpretation on 83, which almost makes it a conjunctive interpretation of that section. And that's the major difference. Of course, that is alone, as people have written pages and pages on this, and we can go
on and on.
Days just discussing Section 83.
All right. Thank you so much for finding the time to come and break these concepts to us. If you have any questions for us, you can write to us to our email address, which is info@cyroglobal.com. That's info@cyroglobal.com. You can also write to us through our Gmail address, which is cyrologlobal@gmail.com. We would like to thank our videography crew, which is Mushiri Frames. We will display their email on the screen. We would also like to say thanks to Igeri and Gogi Advocates for facilitating the shooting of this series. Thank you so much for tuning in. Share, subscribe, and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.